Hi, so my name's Ethan Luckman. I am an English teacher at East Jackson High School, and I'm going to talk to you about the new ELA standards. Oh, goodness. Okay, so this year, the Georgia Department of Education has shown us some new ELA standards, which is really just like a list of things that we need to be teaching in each of our classes. This year, and I'll show you the differences in a second, they are grouped in these main ideas: text, language, and practices. And then K through 5 has a totally different, I think they're called foundations, and that stuff based on spelling and handwriting and basic reading, that kind of thing. The framework for this is that at the very, very top we have these the domains, which are broad areas of skills and concepts. Underneath that we have big ideas, which take a lot of the standards and put them into more specific categories. The standards themselves describe what the students are going to be focused on, and then the expectations are specifically what the students are going to be doing. Here's an example. So we have the big idea at the top: author craft. The standard: consider the impact of text design and purpose when consuming and producing text. So that's kind of like the theme of the standard. And then the expectations down here are the very specific things that the students are going to be able to do. And I like this too because it's split on interpreting and constructing text, a really fancy way of just saying reading and writing text. I like how it's all included in the same standard. How are they different from before? Reading and writing are more interconnected, that we read and we write and it feeds one into the other. They're going to be using different techniques within each piece of writing. So instead of having just poetry and we're just writing poetry, and just argument, we're just writing argument, we can start to figure out how we can use like poetry conventions like rhyme and alliteration and repetition in our argument writing. Just as an example. The grammar skills are more specific. There's a whole chart that shows what the students will be able to do in each grade. The vocabulary is more nuanced. We're looking at stuff like root words and prefixes to figure out how to teach students to recognize vocabulary in context if they don't know what the word means, but they can still look at the parts of the word and break it down like that. Practices I really like because it just outlines really good teaching, and I like that that's going to be standard for the whole state. And then the last one is a big change. Periods and movements is when we have to teach in 9th through 12th specific literary movements from American and British literary history. So how will the course change? The students are going to be making more deeper connections between the text they read and the text they write. The texts themselves are going to be more multimodal, which means it's not going to be just essays and short stories and poems, but it's also going to be stuff like movies and paintings and podcasts and news articles and songs and all kinds of stuff that still counts as writing, but it's not just words on a page. More specific grammar and vocabulary work, like I mentioned earlier, and then the students are expected to collaborate, and that can take a lot of different forms, but the expectation is that in every single class they're working together, they're presenting their work, they're figuring out a way to take the work, not just from themselves, and it's not all individual, but share it and work on it with other people. The course names are also changing. We're going to have Lit and Comp 1, 2, 3, and 4, so that maps to 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Our honors students are expected. They're not going to go to honors 11th anymore. The 9th and 10th honors, if we're doing our job, are going to be prepared for AP Lang and then AP Lit right after that. So if you're an honors student, you'll take honors 9th, honors 10th, AP Lang, and then AP Lit. Dual enrollment is still an option. But that's the biggest change so far, changing those course names. The end of course test also is moving. So right now it was in American Lit, and now it's being moved to 10th Lit. But the EOC is moving from 11th this year to 10th next year. Me and Elizabeth Pittman over at Jackson County High School are doing a test course. Basically, we kind of rewrote the 10th Lit curriculum with these new standards. We're trying to figure out how it works and what's working well, what's working not as well, and what we can fix, what we can keep. So far, it's going pretty well, and the whole goal of that is so that in the fall, we don't have this brand new curriculum that we've already kind of run through it and figured out what works. Here are some resources that are here if you need them. A list of the entire standards, more information on periods and movements, like what specifically are we going to be talking about for periods and movements. Glossary of terms as well. This is not a vocabulary list. It just I figured I would share it with you. And then you've got my contact information down there. If you have any questions at all, please let me know.